You know this, the list of MPs who have given a recommendation to companies that went on to secure enormously lucrative COVID contracts, seeing in many cases individuals take home tens of millions of pounds of what had previously been public money, is absolutely breathtaking. Andrew is in Beaconsfield. Andrew, what can you tell us?
Hi, James.
Hello.
I did try and get hold of you at the time because this was a very similar experience to the lady you were talking about with the ventilators, where we just were absolutely unable to contact anybody. I run a medical device company that supplied the NHS for over 30 years. We had a couple of things happen. One, I had the week before lockdown, I had a friend in Germany contact me.
Yeah.
They had millions of masks, millions of South Korean test kits. And he basically said, if you can get somebody to fly over, any time now, we've got bundles of PPE. And I just wanted to let you know. So I did that, spent most of the next 2 or 3 days trying to contact people. This is before it felt quite so urgent. We then realised that we weren't going to get access to his stuff because it was, other governments around the world were flying planes in.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd managed not to contact anybody. I got so desperate after about 3 days, I actually even called our local police and said, did they have any access to, who do we contact? One of the major things we did do, obviously, we went down our normal supply channels.
Yeah.
So we went to all of our local hospitals, all of the purchase managers that we know, all over we know purchase managers all over the country.
30 years worth of experience here coming into play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they were stopped from purchasing. So they were told there would be central supplies. Obviously, they didn't want to ruin their own budgets by purchasing locally. I then started, and this was one of the huge mistakes, I think, because I then started to talk to other colleagues. We were talking to each other. We were all closed down at the time, obviously, because we didn't, we had very little that we could supply. So we were all spending our lives on the phone and trying to get through to the government, saying that most of us had access to a reasonable amount of PPE.
Right.
You didn't need to go down the chain, huge centralised supply.
So you could ramp up the system that already existed rather than having to build new ramparts.
Exactly. The system that existed could have carried on supplying the hospitals quite easily, I think. So instead of letting them run out because there was, they were awaiting a central supply, they could easily have contacted trusted suppliers and said, "Can you get us any?" Now, the other major reason that we could is that a lot of products these days come from China, and we're in nearly all PPE comes from China. So at the time, we actually do have an import license from China. So we are actually a sort of authorized medical supplier with a supply chain from China. So it would have been cheaper. There was no, we weren't looking to profit from it. This is something we said quite regularly. It's like if somebody can contact us, we have product. We don't want to profit. We just want to get it out there. We were watching the news, obviously, and seeing nurses dressed in black bags.
Yes.
This is one of the things I find disgusting as well when you hear later on from people like Matt Hancock that there wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
We all watched it unfold, and we had access to product, and so did numerous colleagues. Now, we're not a big company,
right.
And my my competitors are not big companies. Every single one of us had access to PPE. And,
but you couldn't get through to people in a position to buy it centrally.
Nobody. You could not get through. So we had this strange. Initially, there was no way of getting through to anybody. There was no centralised purchasing set up.
So who were you? Just run me through who you rang before you felt compelled to ring the police, and then, if I may, I'm probably going to put you on hold and come back after the break.
I managed to get Matt Hancock's secretary number.
Really?
She put me back onto sort of a waiting list thing. Basically, suppliers. We were phoning hospital supplies departments and saying, "We've got it." And so you
normally buy 10,000 a year from me. If you need 50,000, I can sort you out.
Yeah, we don't supply it, and this is one of the things, James, that is how dodgy is this?
I don't know
who was supplying it, because we were immediately asked if we did get hold of somebody, because we occasionally did get called, local government, for instance. We're in South Bucks, and South Bucks Council were quite proactive at contacting us. After about 2 weeks, we managed to get a call back from them.
Right.
Now, the problem we then had was it was CE, provide this, provide the CE marking, provide advance, purchase details. It was like, well, you have to promise you're going to buy it, because the manufacturers are selling it to people who are cash rich, which is what the government ended up doing. But what's really frightening for us is that at all of the stages we had to go through, none of these companies could have done. So, they were checking CE marks, they were asking for, and when I saw the stuff that was starting to come through, I don't think that, I doubt very much these were hurried products, a lot of them.
Well, we know that one of these companies had 50 million face masks that couldn't be used because they had the wrong straps on them. So, oh, Lord.
Exactly that. So that's one of our frustrations, was that we knew we were dealing with kosher companies. We were checking. We're medical device companies. We know what we're looking for. We know what we have to provide. But we were just being ignored. And this went on and on.
And did you find this was reflected back at you by other competitors and colleagues? Were other people having similar?
Totally.
And were you conscious, were you aware of anybody who did have contacts in government? Did you know of any of your competitors who did actually manage to get
none of us managed to get, none of our, now we don't work in PPE directly, so this was all being done, but we're all medical device companies who had access. And that's, as I say, that's why the central purchasing went, I think, very wrong as well. I know it's on a mass scale, but they could have elongated that. They could have allowed places to buy it where they could find it until they got those central contracts arranged, because notoriously they don't work, and they didn't on this occasion. We could have.
So you were the least surprised person listening to the first half an hour of this programme today?
Totally unsurprised. I mean, I wish I hadn't had the first call from my German colleague, because I spent the first month of not watching Netflix, but literally on the phone for 15 hours a day trying to get some sense out of people, and it was utterly impossible. And now, one horror story, a friend of mine actually bought 80,000 masks very early on.
Right.
He ended up trying to give them away. He was actually told, and this is where I think it gets really dark, because the message that came from the government was also that masks don't work. Yes. And they were doing that because they didn't have any.
Well, they would no doubt deny that, but that is your
that's
Occam's
exactly
razor.
What was happening, though, James. That was what was happening.
Okay.
So they.